Primal leadership. Great leaders move us. They ignite our passion and inspire the best in us. When we try to explain why they are so effective, we speak of strategy, vision, or powerful ideas. But the reality is much more primal. Great leadership works through the emotions. No matter what leaders set out to do, whether it's creating strategy or mobilizing teams to action, their success depends on how they do it, even if they get everything else just right. If leaders fail in this primal task of driving emotions in the right direction, nothing they do will work as well as it could or should. Consider, for example, a pivotal moment in a news division at the BBC, the British media giant. The division had been set up as an experiment, and while its 200 or so journalists and editors felt they had given their best, management had decided the division would have to close. It didn't help that the executive sent to deliver the decision to the assembled staff started off with a glowing account of how well rival operations were doing, and that he had just returned from a wonderful trip to Cannes. The news itself was bad enough, but the brusque, even contentious manner of the executive incited something beyond the expected frustration. People became enraged, not just at the management decision, but also at the bearer of the news himself. The atmosphere became so threatening, in fact, that it looked as though the executive might have to call security to usher him safely from the room. The next day, another executive visited the same staff. He took a very different approach. He spoke from his heart about the crucial importance of journalism to the vibrancy of a society and of the calling that had drawn them all to the field in the first place. He reminded them that no one goes into journalism to get rich. As a profession, its finances have always been marginal, with job security ebbing and flowing with larger economic tides. And he invoked the passion, even the dedication the journalists had for the service they offered. Finally, he wished them all well in getting on with their careers. When this leader finished speaking, the staff cheered. The difference between the leaders lay in the mood and tone with which they delivered their messages. One drove the group toward antagonism and hostility, the other toward optimism, even inspiration, in the face of difficulty. These two moments point to a hidden but crucial dimension in leadership: the emotional impact of what a leader says and does. The fundamental task of leaders, we argue, is to prime good feeling in those they lead. That occurs when a leader creates resonance, a reservoir of positivity that frees the best in people. At its root, then, the primal job of leadership is emotional. We believe this primal dimension of leadership, though often invisible or ignored entirely, determines whether everything else a leader does will work as well as it could. And this is why emotional intelligence, being intelligent about emotions, matters so much for leadership success. Emotionally intelligent leadership drives resonance and thus performance. For the individual leader, in teams, and throughout entire organizations. Perhaps uniquely among management theories, the primal leadership model builds on links to neurology. Breakthroughs in brain research show why leaders' moods and actions have enormous impact on those they lead, and shed fresh light on the power of emotionally intelligent leadership to inspire, arouse passion and enthusiasm, and keep people motivated and committed. Conversely, we sound a warning about the power of toxic leadership to poison the emotional climate of a workplace. The group IQ, then, the sum total of every person's best talents contributed at full force, depends on the group's emotional intelligence, as shown in its harmony. A leader skilled in collaboration can keep cooperation high and thus ensure that the group's decisions will be worth the effort of meeting. Such leaders know how to balance the group's focus on the task at hand with its attention to the quality of members' relationships. They naturally create a friendly but effective climate that lifts everyone's spirits. Good moods, good work. When people feel good, they work at their best. Common sense. Feeling good lubricates mental efficiency, making people better at understanding information and using decision rules in complex judgments, as well as more flexible in their thinking. Upbeat moods, research verifies, make people view others or events in a more positive light. That in turn helps people feel more optimistic about their ability to achieve a goal, enhances creativity and decision-making skills, and predisposes people to be helpful. Moreover, research on humor at work reveals that a well-timed joke or playful laughter can stimulate creativity, open lines of communication, enhance a sense of connection and trust, and of course, make work more fun. Playful joking increases the likelihood of financial concessions during a negotiation. Small wonder that playfulness holds a prominent place in the toolkit of emotionally intelligent leaders. Good moods prove especially important when it comes to teams. The ability of a leader to pitch a group into an enthusiastic, cooperative mood can determine its success. On the other hand, whenever emotional conflicts in a group bleed attention and energy from their shared tasks, a group's performance will suffer, obviously. The primal dimension. This emotional task of the leader is primal. That is, first, in two senses. It is both the original and the most important act of leadership. Leaders have always played a primordial emotional role. No doubt, humankind's original leaders, whether tribal chieftains or Shamanists earned their place in large part because their leadership was emotionally compelling. Throughout history and in cultures everywhere, the leader in any human group has been the one to whom others look for assurance and clarity when facing uncertainty or threat, or when there's a job to be done. The leader acts as the group's emotional guide. In the modern organization, this primordial emotional task, though by now largely invisible, remains foremost among the many jobs of leadership, driving the collective emotions in a positive direction and clearing the smog created by toxic emotions. This task applies to leadership everywhere, from the boardroom to the shop floor. Quite simply, in any human group, the leader has maximal power to sway everyone's emotions. If people's emotions are pushed toward the range of enthusiasm, performance can soar. If people are driven toward rancor and anxiety, they will be thrown off stride. This indicates another important aspect of primal leadership. Its effects extend beyond ensuring that a job is well done. Followers also look to a leader for supportive emotional connection, for empathy. All leadership includes this primal dimension, for better or for worse. When leaders drive emotions positively, as was the case with the second executive at the BBC, they bring out everyone's best. We call this effect resonance. The open loop. The reason a leader's manner, not just what he does, but how he does it, matters so much, lies in the design of the human brain. What scientists have begun to call the open loop nature of the limbic system, our emotional centers. A closed loop system, such as the circulatory system, is self-regulating. What's happening in the circulatory system of others around us does not impact our own system. An open-loop system depends largely on external sources to manage itself. In other words, we rely on connections with other people for our own emotional stability. The open-loop limbic system was a winning design in evolution, no doubt, because it allows people to come to one another's emotional rescue, enabling, for example, a mother to soothe her crying infant, or a lookout in a primate band to signal an instant alarm when he perceives a threat. Despite the veneer of our advanced civilization, the open loop principle still holds. Research in intensive care units has shown that the comforting presence of another person not only lowers the patient's blood pressure, but also slows the secretion of fatty acids that block arteries. More dramatically, whereas 3 or more incidents of intense stress within a year, say serious financial trouble, being fired, or a divorce, triple the death rate in socially isolated middle-aged men. They have no impact whatsoever on the death rate of men who cultivate many close Scientists describe the open loop as interpersonal limbic regulation, whereby one person transmits signals that can alter hormone levels cardiovascular function, sleep rhythms, and even immune function inside the body of another. That's how couples who are in love are able to trigger in one another's brains surges of oxytocin, which creates a pleasant, affectionate feeling. But in all aspects of social life, not just love relationships, our physiologies intermingle, our emotions automatically shifting into the register of the persons we're with. The open loop design of the limbic system means that other people can change our very physiology, and so our emotions. Even though the open loop is so much a part of our lives, we usually don't notice the process itself. Scientists have captured this attunement of emotions in the laboratory by measuring the physiology, such as heart rate, of two people as they have a good conversation. As the conversation begins, their bodies each operate at different rhythms, but by the end of a simple 15-minute conversation, their physiological profiles look remarkably similar, a phenomenon called mirroring. This entrainment occurs strongly during the downward spiral of a conflict, when anger and hurt reverberate, but also goes on more subtly during pleasant interactions. It happens hardly at all during an emotionally neutral discussion. Researchers have seen again and again how emotions spread irresistibly in this way whenever people are near one another, even when the contact is completely nonverbal. For example, when three strangers sit facing each other in silence for a minute or two, the one who is most emotionally expressive transmits his or her mood to the other two without speaking a single word. The same effect holds in the office, boardroom, or shop floor. People in groups at work inevitably catch feelings from one another, sharing everything from jealousy and envy to angst or euphoria. The varieties of dissonance. There are countless kinds of dissonant leaders who not only lack empathy and so are out of sync with the group, but also transmit emotional tones that resound most often in a negative register. Most of those leaders we find don't mean to be so discordant. They simply lack the critical, emotional, intelligent abilities that would help them lead with resonance. In the extreme, dissonant leaders can range from the abusive tyrant who bawls out and humiliates people to the manipulative sociopath. Such leaders have an emotional impact, a bit like the Dementors in the Harry Potter series, who drain peace, hope, and happiness out of the air around them.
Harry, you all right?
Thank you.
Here, eat this. It'll help. It's all right. It's chocolate.
What was that thing? Okay.
It was a Dementor, one of the guards of Azkaban. It's gone now. He was searching the train for Sirius Black. If you'll excuse me, I need to have a little word with the driver. Eat. You'll feel better.
What happened to me?
Well, you sort of went rigid. We thought maybe you were having a fit or something.
And did either of you two, pass out? No. I felt weird, though. Like I'd never be cheerful again.
They create wretched workplaces, but have no idea how destructive they are, or they simply don't care. Some dissonant leaders, however, are more subtle, using a surface charm or social polish, even charisma, to mislead and manipulate. These leaders don't truly hold their professed values, or they lack empathy, caring about little other than their own advancement. When followers sense that kind of insincerity, when a manipulative leader feigns friendliness, for instance, the relationship dissolves into cynicism and distrust. Dissonant leaders sometimes may seem effective in the short run. They may get a coveted promotion, for instance, by focusing on pleasing their boss. But the toxicity they leave behind belies their apparent success. Wherever they go in an organization, the legacy of their tenure marks a telltale trail of demotivation and apathy, anger and resentment. In short, dissonant leaders are the bosses that people dread working for. The demagogue. Given that adept leaders move followers to their emotional rhythm, we face the disturbing fact that throughout history, demagogues and dictators have used this same ability for deplorable ends. The Hitlers and Pol Pots of the world have all rallied angry mobs around a moving but destructive message. And therein lies the crucial difference between resonance and demagoguery. Compared with resonant leaders, demagogues spread very different emotional messages, ones that elicit negative emotions, particularly a mix of fear and anger. The threat to us from them and the dread that they will take what we have. Their message polarizes people rather than uniting them in a common cause. Such leaders build their platform for action on a negative resonance, on the disturbing fight-or-flight survival emotions that stream through the brain when people feel threatened or enraged. The Serbian leader Slobodan Milosevic, for example, was a master at fanning the flames of ethnic hatred, uniting his followers behind a banner of resentments, fears, and rage, to both his own and his nation's detriment. Demagoguery casts its spell via destructive emotions, a range that squelches hope and optimism, as well as true innovation and creative imagination, as opposed to cruel cunning. By contrast, resonant leadership, grounded in a shared set of constructive values, keeps emotions resounding in the positive register. It invites people to take a leap of faith through a word picture of what's possible, creating a collective aspiration. Luckily, the demagogue is a rare type in business. Politics, however, seems the demagogue's more natural ecological niche. Still, some business leaders do resort to nefarious tactics. Workplace leadership built on negative resonance, for instance, cultivating fear or hatred of some enemy, amounts to a cheap trick, a quick and dirty way to mobilize a group toward a common goal. It may be relatively easy to get people to hate or fear something together. These emotions come readily, given the right threat. But from a biological perspective, these emotions were designed for short, intense bursts meant to prepare us to fight or run. If they last too long or are continually primed, they exhaust us or slowly burn us out. Anger or fear then may get a leader through the crisis of the day, but they are short-lived motivators. Laughter and the open loop. Emotions may spread like viruses, but not all emotions spread with the same ease. A study at the Yale University School of Management found that among working groups, cheerfulness and warmth spread most easily, while irritability is less contagious and depression spreads hardly at all. This greater diffusion rate for good moods has direct implications for business results. Moods, the Yale study found, influence how effectively people work. Upbeat moods boost cooperation, fairness, and business performance. Laughter in particular demonstrates the power of the open loop in operation, and therefore the contagious nature of all motion. Hearing laughter, we automatically smile or laugh too, creating a spontaneous chain reaction that sweeps through a group. Glee spreads so readily because our brain includes open-loop circuits, designed specifically for detecting smiles and laughter that make us laugh in response. The result is a positive emotional hijack. Similarly, of all emotional signals, smiles are the most contagious. They have an almost irresistible power to make others smile in return. Smiles may be so potent because of the beneficial role they played in evolution. Smiles and laughter, scientists speculate, evolved as a nonverbal way to cement alliances, signifying that an individual is relaxed and friendly rather than guarded or hostile. Laughter offers a uniquely trustworthy sign of this friendliness. Unlike other emotional signals, especially a smile, which can be feigned, laughter involves highly complex neural systems that are largely involuntary. It's harder to fake. So, whereas a false smile might easily slip through our emotional radar, a forced laugh has a hollow ring. In a neurological sense, laughing represents the shortest distance between two people. Because it instantly interlocks limbic systems. This immediate involuntary reaction, as one researcher puts it, involves the most direct communication possible between people, brain to brain, without our intellect just going along for the ride, in what might be called a limbic lock. No surprise, then, that people who relish each other's company laugh easily and often. Those who distrust or dislike each other, or who are otherwise at odds, laugh little together, if at all. In any work setting, therefore, the sound of laughter signals the group's emotional temperature, offering one sure sign that people's hearts as well as their minds are engaged. Moreover, laughter at work has little to do with someone telling a canned joke. A good laugh sends a reassuring message. We're on the same wavelength. We get along. It signals trust, comfort, and a shared sense of the world. As a rhythm in a conversation, laughing signals that all is well for the moment. How easily we catch leaders' emotional states, then, has to do with how expressively their faces, voices, and gestures convey their feelings. The greater a leader's skill at transmitting emotions, the more forcefully the emotions will spread. Such transmission does not depend on theatrics. Of course, since people pay close attention to a leader, even subtle expressions of emotion can have great impact. Even so, the more open leaders are, how well they express their own enthusiasm, for example, the more readily others will feel that same contagious passion. Leaders with that kind of talent are emotional magnets. People naturally gravitate to them. If you think about the leaders with whom people most want to work in an organization, they probably have this ability to exude upbeat feelings. It's one reason emotionally intelligent leaders attract talented people, for the pleasure of working in their presence. Conversely, leaders who emit the negative register, who are irritable, touchy, domineering, cold, repel people. No one wants to work for a grouch. Research has proven it. Optimistic, enthusiastic leaders more easily retain their people compared with those bosses who tend toward negative moods. While mild anxiety, such as over a looming deadline, can focus attention and energy, prolonged distress can sabotage a leader's relationships and also hamper work performance by diminishing the brain's ability to process information and respond effectively. A good laugh or an upbeat mood, on the other hand, more often enhances the neural abilities crucial for doing good work. Leaders give praise or withhold it, criticize well or destructively, offer support or turn a blind eye to people's needs. They can frame the group's mission in ways that give more meaning to each person's contribution, or not. They can guide in ways that give people a sense of clarity and direction in their work and that encourage flexibility, setting people free to use their best sense of how to get the job done. All these acts help determine a leader's primal emotional impact. Emotional hijacking. Negative emotions, especially chronic anger, anxiety, or a sense of futility, powerfully disrupt work, hijacking attention from the task at hand. For instance, of all the interactions at an international hotel chain that pitched employees into bad moods, the most frequent was talking to someone in management. Interactions with bosses led to bad feelings: frustration, disappointment, anger, sadness, disgust, or hurt, about 9 out of 10 times. These interactions were the cause of distress more often than customers' work pressure, company policies, or personal problems. Not that leaders need to be overly nice. The emotional art of leadership includes pressing the reality of work demands without unduly upsetting people. One of the oldest laws in psychology holds that beyond a moderate level, increases in anxiety and worry erode mental abilities. Distress not only erodes mental abilities but also makes people less emotionally intelligent. People who are upset have trouble reading emotions accurately in other people, decreasing the most basic skill needed for empathy, and as a result impairing their social skills. Another consideration is that the emotions people feel while they work, according to new findings on job satisfaction, reflect most directly the true quality of work life. The percentage of time people feel positive emotions at work turn out to be one of the strongest predictors of satisfaction and therefore, for instance, of how likely employees are to quit. In this sense, leaders who spread bad moods are simply bad for business, and those who pass along good moods help drive a business success.
In fact, I tell people on average, it's not unusual for it to take almost a year to figure this out. Because first of all, in that early phase, you have a lot of narcissistic folks who are very love bombing. It's soulmates and Instagram posts and I'm in my fairy tale, and this is so happy and perfect night and champagne glasses and let's go on a weekend away. And it feels dreamy for some people, fairy tale-ish and all of that, right? Well, nobody can keep up that kind of momentum. And then anywhere from 4 weeks to 4 months, you will start seeing a little bit of a drop off and the real narcissistic person comes out. It might come out at times of frustration, stress, disappointment. They might get a little prickly, but they'll quickly sort of double back, right? So narcissistic people love the beginning of a relationship. It's a game for them. Lots of supply, lots of validation, lots of excitement. Narcissistic people are very naturally novelty and excitement seeking. They like those dopaminergic, like woohoo, like they like that high.
Lots of compliment
Lots
giving.
of compliments. You're the best. How did I ever get so lucky to get such a boyfriend? They eat that stuff up. But the little things will be happening. There might be a gaslight here or there. And then with time, there's going to be more of those. About a year in is when people often have enough puzzle pieces where like, there's something not right here. But the problem is a year in, you're in. Some folks are already engaged. Some people have moved in. Some people are pregnant. Some people have gotten married. Other people feel like I've just wasted a year of my life. In fact, I tell people
When you argue with them, they keep insisting on fantasy. So you're like, no, I know the dates, I know the times, I know what I said, I know what happened. And you insist on that, and they insist on changing it back into their fantasy. And we'll be on the outside of this going, well, you're just fucking lying. I can't stop you from lying all the time. And yes, they are deliberately lying and they are deliberately gaslighting the target, but they also live in a lie. Their life is a lie. So the way to think of this is, imagine you have a human being. They were a small child once, an authentic, real, vulnerable small child. Things happened that they couldn't tolerate, so they built a shell around themselves. And inside of that shell, they split from painful reality. And when they look through the shell, they never see reality as it is. It's always blurred. This shell is a filter. And they see on the inside of the shell a mirror that they've created, but not a clear mirror like a funhouse circus sort of a mirror. that shows them what they choose to see in order to survive. So when you're arguing with a narcissist and they're clinging on stubbornly, so they have to be stubborn for it to be MPD. It's a rigid personality disorder. It's because they're like holding on to a life raft. They're at sea. They're in crisis perpetually. They live their lives in crisis. That's why they go from one drama to the next. That's all they know. And their narcissistic delusion is the life raft they cling on to. So people come to me and say, can't you give them therapy? Can't you help them? I'm like, how? How am I going to convince a child to let go of a survival strategy that they've been using since they were 3 or 4 years old? Wow, it's mad, isn't it?
We're all being bombarded with a cocktail of chemicals from on high.
Does a narcissist know what they are doing? A narcissist knows when to be kind, who to be kind to, when to apologize just enough to keep you hooked, how to gaslight you into questioning your reality, when to play the victim, how to exploit your insecurities, when to withdraw affection to punish you, how to manipulate situations to their advantage, when to act charming, how to isolate you from their support system, when to make you feel special and when to pull away, how to use your emotions against you, when to play the hero in public, how to make you doubt your worth, when to use the silent treatment, how to shift the blame onto you, how to pretend they've changed, when to love bomb you, how to keep you in the cycle of hope, and how to keep you in the cycle of abuse. So if you've been wondering if the narcissist knows what they are doing, the answer is yes. They know exactly what they are doing.
The greatest mistake a narcissist can make is pushing an empath to their breaking point. Narcissists, blinded by their own self-importance, often mistake an empath's boundless kindness for weakness, viewing their compassion as something to exploit. But when they push too far, they trigger a permanent shift within the empath, a transformation that becomes the narcissist's worst nightmare. When an empath is broken, left in isolation, stripped of their strength, and teetering on the brink of despair, their heart carries wounds few can understand. Yet, in that space, the empath faces a choice: remain shattered or rise. For those who endure, something extraordinary happens. Out of the darkness, they emerge transformed, a supernova of resilience. In this moment of rebirth, they are no longer a vessel for the pain of others, no longer vulnerable to manipulation. The super empath reclaims their power with newfound clarity and strength. Having faced betrayal and survived unimaginable anguish, they return stronger, sharper, and unbreakable. The super empath is the force narcissists fear most. Unlike the empath they once knew, the super empath isn't there to console or heal. They carry insights gained from suffering, their vision sharper than ever. They wield their compassion with wisdom, never again a pawn in someone else's game. The super empath sees through the narcissist's